Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I'm here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about Jon Favreau and how he thinks that maybe Lucasfilm should listen.
Or creatives in general should listen to fans
Listen
more.
to the fans? What does that mean?
Crazy talk.
That's insane.
Now all the media outlets will cancel Jon Favreau.
They will. They'll find, you know what? You joke about that. They'll find something in Jon Favreau's closet and they'll try to cancel him because, God forbid, we actually listen to the customers. We actually listen to fans.
Well, here's the thing. Like, with The Mandalorian, a lot of people who worked on it were fans first, or they wanted to put the job above personal politics or whatever. And it shows, because The Mandalorian is much more, I think, like Star Wars than some of the other Disney Star Wars films have been. And it clearly, it clearly seems like they're trying to make it feel like it belongs.
Right. And I have to think that Jon Favreau was a big part of that. Now, there was an interview with Cameron Pasha. Mm-hmm. He was a producer on some shows, and forgive me, I can't remember which shows off the top of my head, but he was on Geeks and Gamers, and he said it's Jon Favreau who's been sort of pushing Lucasfilm into going old school and trying to win back the Star Wars fans, that there is a civil war going on within Lucasfilm, and Jon Favreau is just doing what he can do to try to minimize the damage. And we look at Dave Filoni, and a lot of people were looking at Dave Filoni like, oh, he's going to be the guy who saves Star Wars. He's going to step in for Kathleen Kennedy when she leaves, and his belief system seems to be very similar to Kathleen Kennedy's these days.
So I don't know what to tell you about that, but I do think it's refreshing to have someone come out and say, hey, look, it's a two-way street. So, like, I brought up some things. It was on the Hollywood Reporter originally. I think you have the original article.
Yeah, here's the original article.
They were talking about, how he's working with different people that are fans, and how it's like the 501st, they brought them in. They didn't have enough Stormtrooper costumes. They reached out to the local 501st and had them come in and fill in, and sometimes those costumes are better than the officials. I'm sorry, but they are. Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest. I mean, if you've seen up close, if you've seen some of the craftsmanship that goes into some of the stuff the 501st is doing, you see the droids, and they actually, I think some Star Wars movies, they actually have used some fan-built droids too. I'm like, well, why not? These guys already have props,
right? And they were there, and give back to the fans, and it was a great idea. And they also have talked to, like I said, Taika Waititi was holding Baby Yoda, was carrying Baby Yoda around the set like a baby, and then because he was a fan, and then and Pedro Pascal has said before about how much he was a fan, and he said it's like being on a set and looking at yourself in a mirror and seeing the image of something that reflects so much of your childhood experience. So they went and picked people that were fans first, or that really felt like the directing was more important than a lot of these creators anymore feel like putting their take on it, their name on it, their personal rinse is more important than staying true to the IP. And we see it time and time again. She-Ra, Ghostbusters, Last of Us 2, even though that was their own thing. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like this idea that we're gonna peel over it and make sure, that it's our vision.
That's almost what it is. There's this cantankerous relationship between studios and fandoms, and it's like the studios want to move in one direction, a lot of times dictated by politics, and the fans are reluctant, obviously, because they're like, hey, this is nothing like what we grew up with, what we've been used to. Stop it. I think Star Trek is one of the biggest examples right now. Star Trek, they just double, triple, quadruple down on political messaging. Now, a lot of people are going to argue Star Trek has always been political. Yeah, it has been, but it's never really slapped you upside the head,
right?
Like they have lately.
And in Star Wars, it's like, these people come in. Well, we have Rian Johnson, for example, and his bragging rights was he wanted to subvert expectations. When you have a franchise that's been around for decades, you owe the fans something. I'm sorry that these people, especially these journalists, say that that's not the case. It is the case. And he said that he was actually an usher in a movie theater when Jedi was released. He's been a fan for years. And he said, the fact of the matter, as much as we love working on Star Wars, we love even more making Star Wars for other people. And when other people are excited by it, dig what we're doing, and are appreciative, that's as good as it gets for us. How you look at that. Somebody who appreciates fans.
Yeah, so Favreau talked about the importance of creators understanding that with an established franchise like Star Wars, sometimes you need to take expectations into consideration. He said you put something out into the world and then it echoes back at you. You have to listen. It's not a one-way street. It's a two-way street. You have to feel the energy of the audience. But when you come from comedy, and when I was doing improv back in Chicago, that's it. You have to read the room. You have to feel the room. You have to be in community with the audience. You have to be part of it.
Right, yeah, you can't be above it. You can't be dictating it. You have to be part of it. If it's your own thing, by all means, make up your own shit and be above it, and dictate it. But if you're one of the people that you grew up with us and you're a fan and you're the caretaker of a property, then you need to make sure that you're, one, fitting with the property, and two, that you're gonna try to at least make, the fans happy. And I understand that you're never gonna make everybody agree.
Yeah.
There's just no way in hell you're gonna make everybody agree. Understandable. But do your best you can to make it fit within the parameters that have already been established.
I think that's the big one is, look, everybody's not going to agree on what should be done with franchise, whatever. But the difference is, lately, Star Wars has been just openly antagonistic. Lucasfilm has been openly antagonistic.
Hollywood in general has been openly antagonistic.
Yeah, they're not even trying. It's obvious they're not even trying. And then if there's any pushback at all, instead of being like, well, maybe we need to rethink this, no, it's somehow your fault.
You're a bad person. And they want all these properties. They want all the recognition, the brand recognition that goes along with it, but they don't want the fans to go along with it, which is why there's brand recognition. And yeah, like you said, if you don't go along with it, these creators, the Twitter mobs, the media have been out, trying to make sure they discredit you, call you names. And even if you have a valid point, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what your valid point is. They're going to call you names anyway, even if it's stupid and makes no sense.
Well, I think the difference is he's talking about reading the room. He's talking about being part of a community, and he's speaking to the audience, getting feedback. The difference with a lot of these studios with Hollywood is they want to be teachers. They want to be like kindergarten teachers, leading the audience and telling them what they're doing wrong.
They want to be above it, not part of it.
Yeah, they don't want to be part of it. They want to tell you what you should like. And if
you don't listen, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, and it's so weird. We saw this on Twitter actually the other day, which I've pulled away from my personal Twitter, but I did retweet something on Clownfish that someone had pointed out, and I forget who it is. Forgive me, but G.I. Joe. An episode of G.I. Joe back in 1985 had Cobra take control of all media, and they were changing the endings to movies.
Yep.
They were broadcasting Cobra's message on every news network. They were changing kids' cartoons to push Cobra's message. And I'm like, we're seeing it now with Hollywood. They want to dictate the message, and it's more about messaging than entertaining people.
Right. It's not about what the story's about. It's about agenda. And and you can still do that. It's always, but do it in a way that's entertaining and that's not insulting. And that's just it. Like you can still make new things. You can still create new environments. Change some things, and add to it. Be additive instead of being subtractive. That's the key. You need to be additive. But to be additive, you don't have to subtract everything else, like they did with Last Jedi. Like instead of being additive with their new characters, the characters were solely there to subtract from the male characters that had already been established. They actually took them backwards into making them more like like asshole characters than they were, to try to give them a reason to elevate. So you want to be additive and not subtractive. You want to add worthwhile things and make it fit. Well,
that's what's happening with the audiences, though, too, is they're chasing new audiences. A lot of people call them phantom audiences, audiences that they hope are there, but they're not 100% sure that they're there. But what they're doing is they're also alienating old fans. So the trick is you have to be able to keep the majority of the old fans relatively happy, and then go out and add more fans.
Right, which is what they're doing with Mandalorian.
Yeah, I think The Mandalorian was a good move. And I'll be honest, the first episode I didn't really care for, because I thought that one alien, for whatever reason, it reminded me of Marvel.
More Marvel, yeah. And
I was like, oh God, they marveled up Star Wars. But I gave it another shot. I'm glad I did. The Mandalorian is the most Star Warsy Star Wars that Disney has done so far.
Right.
And I think a lot of that comes down to Jon Favreau. I thought it was Dave Filoni, but I think it's Jon Favreau.
I think it's Jon Favreau too. I'm not, Dave Filoni's good too, and they are using him in the upcoming thing. That there was this supposed rumor that they're going to have they're using the Mandalorian to launch a bunch of shows with like Ahsoka Tano and Thrawn and a bunch of other characters that they're going to spin off into independent shows, but they tie together somehow. And I guess Filoni Filoni's in charge of all that. So it's interesting. So you have Favreau and you have Filoni, and where's KK other than her Leslie Headland debacle that no one's talking about now?
Well, let's talk about that, because again, this does lend some credence to what YouTubers have been saying, that there is a civil war going on in Lucasfilm. And at the end of the day, Disney, especially with regime change at the top, and especially with Disney being as desperate for money as they are right now, cash-strapped Disney, they might have to be like, okay, who's doing the better job with Star Wars? Let's read the room. Let's see what...
Let's read the room. Favreau.
Put Favreau in. Kennedy, you're out of here. Put Favreau in, and you can oversee Dave Filoni.
Yes, Filoni be okay under Favreau.
As long as somebody's there to rein him in.
Right. Yeah. I think that's what needs to be done, because do you want to know what's making money, what people like, who actually gets it and can make new content, but still appeal to the old fans because they get it, they understand it. It's a team that did The Mandalorian. And I honestly think that if you're going to take over a franchise, that you need to have been a fan of the original. And I'm talking like She-Ra especially. I just played with the toys, but never actually watched it. Yeah, we got that. I mean, I'm just saying, like, you should be a fan. And then that way they understand the franchise.
Yeah, because when you go in and you change something, it doesn't resemble what made it great in the first place. I mean, I understand progressing.
You need to make updates, but within reason.
Within reason, and that's like Star Trek. Now I watched 2 episodes of Picard, and I'm like, this is dog shit. I'm out. Now, first, I'll be honest, Picard sucked me in because they played the nostalgia card. They play it real.
That's how Force Awakens got you too with that.
Yeah, it did.
I was like, I just saw this movie. It's called New Hope.
Yeah, and I gotta stop falling for that. I have to stop falling for it because I'm disappointed every time. They played the nostalgia card. The first episode of Picard, I was like, damn it, the Picard and Data playing poker and 10 forward, and look at all the stuff from all the episodes of Next Gen. Oh my God, this is going to be a trip down memory lane. I'm so on board. And then by the second episode, I'm like, what the hell? What the hell am I watching? This isn't Star Trek. So yeah, and that's the same thing that happened with The Force Awakens. I kind of got suckered in by the nostalgia, and then The Last Jedi, I was like, what the fudge did we just watch?
Yeah, and then and I still don't think Rian Johnson was ever a good choice. I mean, for his own stuff, yes. But for Star Wars, no. Not when there's like lore and everything else that you have to hold true to. Especially not,
the middle chapter, which is supposed to be where most of the big plot points happen, and he basically just shut everything down.
Literally. So, yeah.
So, I mean, if I were Disney, if I were Bob Chapek, or a Bob, because it's just Bob's in charge. If I were a Bob, I would be looking at this and I'd be like, okay, so let's see. We had, it was paid $4 billion for Star Wars. The sequel trilogy is derided by pretty much everyone at this point, because if you didn't step away from The Last Jedi, you probably stepped away after The Rise of Skywalker, because the critics hated that one. And apparently there's no captain on the ship. You can't get 3 movies right, but these guys got a whole series right, and people were begging for more.
Right, and then we still have that whole elephant in the room, which is the Leslie Headland stuff that you're not hearing about anymore. However, that one was brought up, and same with the High Republic stuff. They were agenda first. All of these things were agenda first, and that's where there's a problem.
Okay, so there's a rumor. This is a rumor. It's coming from Mike Zero. It's a rumor that either George Lucas nixed the High Republic, or he's involved and they're rethinking the whole thing.
Well, let's hope that's true.
Because this is very weird. They're like, oh, it's the pandemic. We're moving it to 2021 because of the pandemic. You're publishing books. You don't have to move books and comic books back to 2021. Because you can do books from home. You can sell them through Amazon. That's not the problem. The problem is, I think the backlash was so severe to diversity and dinosaurs that Lucasfilm had to take a good hard look at this and be like, yeah, this is what's next. People are going to hate it.
Yep.
They're going to hate it. So let's
I think they're starting to be like pulling their heads out of their butts. Well, apparently they weren't on board with Headland's hiring. So they're starting to pull their heads out of their butts and be like, oh, we got a problem here. There's a problem here. Well, who do people like? They like Filoni. Okay, let's put him in charge of this Disney Plus thing. They like Favreau, and all that stuff. And they kind of, took KK's power away for the most part. So it's like, they're starting to listen. But if they are listening, and they're listening now, I'm telling you, you need to put your trust in like Favreau.
Yeah, Kathleen Kennedy was, and that's the thing, Kathleen Kennedy wasn't even Disney's hire. Kathleen Kennedy was George Lucas's hire.
Yeah.
But she went batshit crazy. I don't know what happened, because you look at so many classic movies from the 80s and 90s, and her name is attached.
I know. She knows better. I don't get this.
I thought she was a good choice. I was like, yeah, because she was on The Goonies and E.T. and Indiana Jones and all these classic movies. I'm like, she'd be great. And look what happened.
Yeah, so. But anyway, that Favreau is telling people that are in charge of franchises that creators should listen to the fans. He's not saying, do everything they say, but he's saying you need to start listening to the communication and you need to hear what they're saying and listen and not just automatically dismiss and call them, man, baby trolls, incels, misogynist, racist, homophobes, transphobes, etc., alt-right Yahtzees, blah, 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 blah,
yeah,
blah,
that's
blah.
not working anymore. You get more bees with honey. And there's always, at the end of the day, Doomcock put this out there, there is the kill switch, which was built into
supposedly,
Rebels. I think it was Rebels, or Clone Wars is Rebels, where they basically could just reset the timeline. They could do it anyway. Look, they did it with Superman when they did Superman Returns. They ignored Superman 3 and 4. They just said, okay, Superman Returns takes place after Superman 2. We're going to pretend Superman 3 and 4 never took place, just like a lot of fans pretend Superman 3 and 4 never took place, and they could do the same thing with Star Wars.
But they won't. They'll do something like The Veil, because there's a lot of people who do like those movies for whatever reason. So, they'll be like, well, that happened just in an alternate dimension.
Like the expanded universe?
Kind of.
That we keep bringing parts of it back. We excise the expanded universe to pull the plug out for shit like this, and now we have to keep bringing characters back from the expanded universe.
That's right.
Because maybe it was actually a pretty good idea. There's a reason the expanded universe kept Star Wars afloat until the movies came back out. I'm just saying.
A lot of good stories there. A lot of good stories.
But yeah, having somebody who actually gives a shit in charge would be a good thing.
I agree.
All right, so we're going to wrap this one up.
Yep.
Okay, please subscribe for more pop culture, news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later.
Bye.
Thinking about printing your own comic books, graphic novel, or manga? We recommend our friends over at Print Ninja. We've been using Print Ninja as long as they've been printing comics, and both the quality and price is excellent. Mention Clownfish TV and get an additional 5% overrun of your book order quantity printed for free. For free! That's free books, people. Just mention this offer on the phone or in the additional information box on the quote request form. That's printninja.com, or click on the link in the description below. Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.